Hey everyone, and welcome to my first Blu Ray haul. And basically, um, I'm just going to show you like the Blu Rays I purchased through the month, and I've got quite a few box sets here as well, and whatever else. So, uh, with all that said, let's get started. And the first movie that I purchased, which is my favourite movie of all time, and that is Jaws. Um, yeah, this is just one of the best films that have ever been made. Well, it is the best film that's ever been made. One of the iconic films in movie history. Um, for me, personally, this was. I used to have this in multiple different copies. I used to have it on VHS back in the day, and then I got it on DVD, and now I have it on Blu Ray. Considering at the time when this film was being made, Steven Spielberg was only like maybe about 27 years of age, and at the time, they kept having problems with the shark and whatever else. They didn't think that the film was going to be a huge success, and it actually worked. And to this day, it is still one of the best iconic films in history. You can't beat that movie. And another film which is another one of my all time favourites of all time. That is Terminator 2. And again, I used to have this in multiple different copies again, VHS and DVD, and now I own it on Blu Ray, which was one that my girlfriend got me. Got it for me for our anniversary, an early anniversary present. It's one of the greatest action blockbusters ever been made. It's definitely one of the best sequels ever been made. It's one of the films that's actually better than its original. As much as I do love the first Terminator, but I love Terminator 2. It's just one of the best films ever been made. James Cameron's just one of those brilliant directors who can make any film work. I mean, he did a good job with Aliens and Titanic, and he also done a good job with Avatar, even though there's not many people that like Avatar. I'm okay with Avatar. I don't mind it, but it's just not one of those films that I rewatch, or one of the James Cameron films I watch all that often. And we have another film which is one of my all-time favourites, and that is Pulp Fiction. And again, I never actually had this much growing up. I seen it the very first time I saw it, I must have been about maybe 11, 12 years old at the time. And it wasn't really my copy, it was actually one of my friends' copies, and they gave me a copy of Pulp Fiction, and I watched it, and I just instantly just fell in love with it. It is just absolutely one of the best films again ever been made. Quentin Tarantino just done a great job. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, and it was the winner for Best Written Movie of 1994. And it is still to this day, it's still a classic film. I just love this movie. I don't love it as much as the first two, but this is definitely my third favourite film of all time. I just absolutely just loved Pulp Fiction the first time I saw it. I just instantly, and Quentin Tarantino's just a fantastic director. And next we have a trilogy, a classic trilogy that's been made, and that is the Star Wars trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy. I loved A New Hope the very first time I saw it. I was still in primary school at the time when I saw this for the very first time. It was just one of the classic movies. I just loved this movie. It is another classic. It's got quite a few classics, and this is one of the best ones. Best movies ever been done. I just instantly fell in love with that movie. Also, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and whatever. They were all fantastic in each of these films. And Empire Strikes Back. Again, this was one of the best. This is one of the best. This is the best Star Wars sequel that's ever been made out of the other ones. This one is just a classic. Again, so many people prefer Empire Strikes Back over A New Hope. I am one of those people myself, and but I definitely do enjoy it. All of these. And the next one is Return of the Jedi. Now, I know that there are many people out there who I know this is definitely the weakest film in the Star Wars trilogy, in the original Star Wars trilogy, but at the end of the day, it is still a classic movie. It is still one of the best ones, and you just cannot beat this one. It is so much better than the Star Wars movies we have nowadays. The Force Awakens, that one's okay, but it's a wee bit similar to A New Hope, where the Last Jedi was not really one that stuck out to me all that often. I mean, I don't mind as much as some people do. I can watch it, but it's still a big massive disappointment. It's not really that great of a movie. And the next one I have is the Karate Kid collection. I've seen the Karate Kid movie, the one with Jaden Smith in it. It is definitely one of the good. That was not too bad. It's not as good as the original, but it is still a. It was actually not that bad. It's actually better than the last three sequels that we got. The Karate Kid 2 and Part 3 and the next Karate Kids, but they just didn't live up to the original, and none of the Karate Kid movies after that did. The 2010 movie, that was not too bad, but you just cannot beat the original Karate Kid. This came out the same year as Ghostbusters did, back in 1984 I believe, and it was a huge hit at the box office at the time. So it's one of the classic ones, and you just can't beat Karate Kid. And the next one I have is one of the big releases from last year, and that is the Wonder Woman 1984. Now, I know that a lot of people, some people don't like it. They consider it to be a bit of a disappointment from the original, well, the first Wonder Woman. I am not one of those people who hates the movie, but I'm not one of the people who loves the movie either. I'm more of in the middle. I find it rather disappointing as well, but I still enjoy it when I watch it, because, you know, bringing back Chris Pine back, and you know, the 1980s theme of this time was one of the classic. It's just quite funny and whatever, and this was one of the movies that I was hoping to see in cinema. But with with the COVID pandemic and whatever else, I never got a chance to see it in cinema, unfortunately. But I've seen it now, and it is okay, but I wouldn't say it was the best DC movie that's ever been made. And next, we have another DC movie, and it is one that I just love very much, and that is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, we all remember the 2017 Justice League, and that was just a bitter disappointment for so long. I mean, no one liked that movie. Well, not very many people did. But then they brought out this year, and considering the runtime in this movie is about 4 hours long, and it is absolutely just drop dead brilliant. You just cannot beat this movie. I just absolutely loved it. I loved everything about this movie. Zack Snyder done a fantastic job of bringing all these characters together, and he did so much of a better job with this movie than what Josh Whedon did with Justice League, the 2017 Justice League was just like a bad Avengers movie. It did not stick out to me. I just did not enjoy it at all. I have no idea where they were going with that movie, to be honest. And next we have we're moving on to the box sets now, and the first one is a classic trilogy from the 2000s, and that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I love these movies. I grew up watching them when I was a wee boy. My parents took me to see the Fellowship of the Ring for the very first time when I was a wee boy when this was first released. I got to see it, and even now I still remember sitting in the cinema, getting ready to see this movie, and I just absolutely just loved it. I loved it. It is just one of the best movies ever. This is one of my top 10 favourites. I just loved this trilogy. Every single one of these movies I just love. And the Two Towers, just a fantastic follow-up to the first Lord of the Rings. I loved this movie. I just loved it. The very first time I saw it, again, I've seen every single one of these movies in cinema, and I loved every single one of them. And I got to see the Fellowship of the Ring, which, again, this one was winner of 11 Academy Awards, and I remember every when I went to see this movie in cinema as well, all this full trilogy itself won over 20 Academy Awards, and to this day it's still a classic. When I just loved these movies. You just can't beat them. And next up we have films that go together, basically, because they're both the same thing. The Batman movies. Now, I loved the original 1989 Batman movie. I loved this movie. I remember when I was a wee boy, my dad, my dad showed me this. It came by on TV one night years ago when I was a wee boy, and I just absolutely just felt this for me. This is how I was introduced to the Batman movies. And I seen after I saw that and then saw the other three, I got introduced to the earlier Batman movies, like Michael Keaton, Adam West's Batman TV show and whatever else. But the 1989 one was how I was introduced to these Batman movies, and I still to this day just love them. And next, Batman Returns. Now, for me, yes, it is a good follow-up to the 89 movie, but unfortunately it's still a good follow-up, and it is one of my favourite Batman movies. I didn't think it was as good as the 1989 movie. Michelle Pfeiffer in this movie, of course, she's quite a hot Catwoman at that time, because she was only young. But I still preferred the original 89 Batman movie over Batman Returns. Batman Forever, yeah. This one is kind of more of a guilty pleasure for me. It's not really one that I rewatch all that often, but when I do watch it, I enjoy it, even though it's not great entertainment. But when you watch it, even though you know it's not great entertainment, but you still get a good kick out of watching it, because I know how stupid and dumb the movie is, with the dumb Batman costume to the dumb 90s theme of the movie. You just absolutely just have to watch it when you're in the right mood for a dumb, entertaining Batman movie. And next we have the killer Batman movie, Batman and Robin. Again, this came by on TV one night when I was a wee boy, and unfortunately, it just, I was really excited about this movie when I was a wee boy, because I was like, oh, we're going to get to see a new Batman movie, blah blah blah. Unfortunately, it disappointed me, as I'm sure it did many people. Although Batman and Robin, at the time when it was released, Joel Schumacher and George Clooney knew that when the film was released, they knew it wasn't going to be a huge success after the way it played out. So, after that, the whole movie was released, and it shows you that even though Joel Schumacher knew that so many people went to see it, they were all hyped up, and the movie turned out to be a bit of a disaster. He apologised to his fans, and he was like, okay, I'm not liking this. So, but he said if he disappointed his fans in any way, then he wanted to apologise, because it wasn't his intention to do that. But at least he got an apology, which is more than some fans do, some directors do when they disappoint their fans. And next we have the Dark Knight trilogy, and the first one was Batman Begins. Now, for me, this movie after Batman and Robin, I wasn't too sure if I was keen on seeing it, but I went to see it eventually, and I absolutely loved it. And unfortunately, this was one I didn't get a chance to see in cinema. Unfortunately, at the time, I was still at school, but considering it was out, I missed the deadline, so I didn't get a chance to see it. So I missed it at the time, but it was not too bad, because I did get a chance to see The Dark Knight. This one I did see in cinema, and this is my favourite Batman movie. This is my first favourite Batman movie. I absolutely just loved it. I loved Christian Bale's performance again in this movie. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, classic, just outstanding performance from Heath Ledger. And Two-Face, it just, Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan just did an outstanding job with this movie. You just loved it. And next up you had the epic conclusion, The Dark Knight Rises. Excuse me. Again, another classic Batman movie. It's the weakest in the Dark Knight trilogy, but it is still a great Batman movie. You have to. I know a lot of people aren't too keen on the how Bane is in this movie, with his voice and whatever. But for me, it is still a great Batman movie. It is still a classic movie. I know people have problems with it. I enjoy it. And next up, we have another trilogy, and it is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Again, these movies I absolutely love. Spider-Man, again, has this in multiple different copies. This is another one I had in copies of, and this one I used to have on VHS, with his exact same cover on the VHS tape. And again, I fell in love with this movie. I just loved it. William Dafoe's performance as the Green Goblin was just absolutely outstanding. And this is how I was introduced to the live action Marvel movies, was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. The first Spider-Man was how I was introduced to all of these. For some people it was the X-Men or whatever, but for me, it was the Spider-Man movies. And next up, we have Spider-Man 2. Again, this is a great follow-up to the original Spider-Man. I loved that movie. more than the original. I just loved it. The minute I went to see this movie, I loved it. And I went to see it in cinema the year it was released with my family, and we all loved it. And to this day, it's still one of my top favourite comic book movies of all time. And next up, we have Spider-Man 3. Now, this one, disappointing movie. Unfortunately. I know that this movie is a wee bit of a disappointment, but for me, I personally love it. Well, I don't love it, but it's more of a guilty pleasure for me. Spider-Man 3, it's not really one I rewatch all that often, but if I'm in the mood for a Spider-Man movie that's dumb, I would definitely go for Spider-Man 3 over the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Was not that impressed with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, just wasn't that impressed with them. Next up, we have the Rocky movies. Now, when I'm in the right mood for, if I'm in the mood to go out to, it gets me all pumped up for anything in life, for the gym or to do something for YouTube, I had to go with the original Rocky movie. Now, for me, Rocky, this was, again, when I grew up watching. My grandpa introduced me to them. I loved the first 4 Rocky movies. Rocky 5, just wasn't that keen. But and then they brought it back with Rocky Balboa, and he's 60, and it just shows you, even though at the time he was 60, he can still kick ass, and you just have to love the Rocky movies, but the first 4 and Rocky Balboa. Rocky 5, nah, I just don't bother with that all that often. And next up, you have the 2 Creed movies. Now, I seen this one in the cinema, and I just loved it. Yeah, after Rocky Balboa, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is the end of Rocky now. He's going to start doing different stuff, and they brought him back for this, and he did a fantastic job with it. He just absolutely just loved everything in these movies. And Creed 2, again, for me, this is more of a follow up to Rocky 4, for Apollo Creed's death. They bring Ivan Drago back, who was this big badass at the time, and young Creed fights his son and whatever else, and it's just one of the great classic of the Rocky franchise. It's one of the best ones, and you just absolutely just have to love this movie. And so that's about it. So that's it, guys. That is my Blu-ray haul of the month. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. So if you have, please remember to click that subscribe button, click the like button as well, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. And I'll see you guys around. Right. See yous.